Ronnie, can you tell us a little bit about this move?
Well, it was an opportunity to acquire a third big man. Dan Gadzuric is a guy who's athletic. He does timely rebounding and timely shot blocking. He's been around the league for a good while. And so instead of adding, a youthful guy, we have a person who's experienced, and the same is true of Charlie Bell. Both of them fit into that category, which is quite helpful to our team right now. In regards to Charlie, not only is he a good offensive player, he brings a little bit more defense to our team, and is pretty astute at both ends of the floor. So we're in a situation where we had to give up a player who scored for us, and Corey Maggette, and he was here for 2 years and was a productive player in that regard. But we also are in the middle of making some change within the organization and trying to bring a little bit more direction to the team. And so the whole picture just fit for us in a way that we were pleased with.
When you look at the stats, you can understand why a fan might think, why do you give up a guy who averaged almost 20 points a game last season for two guys who had a combined total of 9 points last season?
I'm not sure how many of our fans will react that way, but that's a point well taken. If you just look at the numbers, you say, wait a minute, these numbers don't add up. You gave up a player who throws up at least scoring numbers, and then you got back guys that are role players. And I think we have to look at our young team as a team that has some people that are going to evolve and fill the role that Corey once had with his team. And there's a necessity to create some space for players to play. Primarily, we're in a situation where Corey played a lot as a four-man. Actually, he's more of a three in some people's estimation, but he played a huge number of minutes at four for us. We've got to open the door for Anthony Randolph and for Brandon Wright and even Anthony Tolliver if we can sign him back. And who knows where our draft pick will go. And so we needed to create some space where there's some minutes.
You kind of touched on it. Is this more or less about saving room on the salary cap?
It isn't really so much a salary cap maneuver, although it certainly helps. And to deny that would be wrong. Was that the reason for doing it? No. But it fit into that kind of a formula.
Who's your starting small forward now?
I have no idea. That'll be up to Don Nelson and what we do on draft day and what we do this summer. We have a guy here named Reggie Williams who's a pretty darn good player. And we'll have, the way Nelly coaches, we'll have guys that will move from 3 to 2 and 2 to 3. What's happened in the evolution of the NBA, and it's an ongoing thing, it may not be this way 10 years from now, but there was a time when there was quite a difference between the guy who played the 3 spot, small forward spot, and the guy who played as a 2 guard. That's no longer the case. On some teams maybe it's that way, but on most teams it isn't. So I'm not overly concerned with it, but at the same time, that's something we have an eye on.
As far as the trade, you think these guys could get quality minutes next year?
At times, because the way we play and the way seasons shake out, anybody who stays ready is probably going to get an opportunity.
Think any more movement possibly before the draft?
Before the draft, I would doubt. I would think that there would be some movement that's possible this summer because we're always looking to do something. And that's not a promise to everybody that there will be more things coming, but the promise is that there will be a whole lot more evaluation and attempting to improve this roster.
I know it's part of the business. How difficult was it to let Maggette go?
It's always difficult when you've had a player who has done, well, let's say it this way. He came to us and he worked hard for us, and this last season in particular, he played a lot of games where he was nicked up and hurt and still went out there and played. And he also sacrificed by moving from more of a 3 spot to the 4 spot. And so he made his contribution to us, and we can't do anything but wish him well.
You dropped a couple of spots, 10 spots for that second rounder, and eventually just got rid of it. You must have said, we're happy with a 1 pick and that's it.
That's right. And there's some sentiment that I brought out the other day in talking with some other people around the media. We're a young team. we're going to add one young player in this draft. It's inevitable. We are going to pick at number 6, unless somebody calls me tomorrow with an astounding deal. So I'm prepared to pick at number 6. That's going to be another young guy. Now, why do I need another one after that? And therefore, that draft pick was expendable.
Are you guys done with your draft board at this point? Do you feel like everything's in place?
Everything's in place. Final decisions are not made, but we're very close.
You mentioned that basically you have an abundance of young players. Is there any chance that those abundance of young players could go to upgrade to a veteran?
No question. No question that if the right situation were presented, you might have to get rid of some youth to come back with a veteran. Now, I don't want a 34, 35-year-old guy, but if you found a guy who was a veteran that brought the presence that we desire, which is somebody who understands the game and is a good player, and he has experience behind him, that would be most helpful to us.
Can you expound on what type of player that might be?
Really, probably doesn't need to be a point guard, but we've got plenty of 2s, so 3, 4, 5, something like that. But it also depends on who you give up in that scenario.
Did McGetty have a heads up at all, or did he find out today that he was traded?
I would say that he probably knew that something was going on.
How long have you been actively shopping him?
It wasn't so much shopping. We've had some conversations from time to time about a lot of our players. And probably no more so him than some of the others. In fact, there was probably inquiries about others that exceeded his.
You said the phone was ringing off the hook at one point for Anthony Randolph. Has that slowed down at all, or where are we with that?
I think he'll always be a guy that people covet. And, that's fine. That's fine. It just is one of those things. I've also said that if we ever trade him, there's going to be a good player coming back on the other side of it. When I say good player, I don't mean good, nearly great.
Was Don Nelson involved in this process?
No, he was informed all the way through it. And certainly I like to hear what he has to say in all of these instances. But there's been agreement on the draft picks that we've made starting last year. There'll be agreement on the pick we make this year, and there was agreement on this trade, and it's worked quite nicely for us.